Should you train like Joe Rogan? We're going to talk about this, and we're going to start right now. Okay, so the great Joe Rogan. Everybody loves Joe Rogan. Let's listen to Joe Rogan and what we have to say, and even listen to This Is Firas a Hobby. What do we have to say about working out? And I think that I've seen videos of Joe training. I've talked with Ben was on Joe Rogan's podcast, and Ben shared a couple things that Joe Rogan had said. So it's interesting. I want to see, what does he have to say about working out? How can you work out smarter? And I really like when powerful influencers talk about exercising. I really, really like it because it's just a way. It's an easy entry. Like I've seen Joe's discussions on, just pick up a kettlebell. Just go do some goblet squats, kettlebell swings. And if you can get a individual, let's say 18 to 40, and they really like someone based off of things that they talk about. I'm even thinking about someone similar would be like Sam Sulek. It's like, just get into the gym or go do something physical. So I want to put that out there, that I love when influencers that are at a high level as far as popularity are just promoting like, just go try to do a workout. Just do something. So let's see what they have to say.
I'm a big believer in never being sore.
I'm a big believer in never being sore. Okay.
You should train. The next day you should wake up feeling good. Okay, you know why?
How's that possible?
Well, because look, if okay, that's a great example. Let's say
actually was an example.
We're talking about fit people, by the way, right?
Every human being,
so guys never worked out before?
Even first day, never trained.
How is it possible to work out and not be sore?
No problem. Beautiful.
Okay. Beautiful, no problem. That's not an answer, but I'm going to tell you right now, sometimes it's really fun to be sore. And also for young kids to get sore and to feel that, it's okay. It's not bad. But let's hear what he has to say. I'll give him his time.
Here we go.
So let's say there's something called rate of perceived exertion. Okay? So let's say I make you do pull-ups, and let's say the maximum amount of...
Okay, so rate of perceived exertion, this is going to be RPE. I prefer RIR, but this is going to be a judgment per individual of how hard they have tried. This is something that was very popular in endurance training. And I think the cool thing with endurance training is that when you use RPE in endurance training, you can tie that RPE to a specific pace on a specific training tool or out on the road. So it's very easy to tie to a pace. Whereas in lifting, it tends to be a little bit more challenging.
Pull-ups you can do. The maximum amount of pull-ups is 10. Let's keep a nice round number. At 11, you couldn't do 11. If I pointed a gun at you, you couldn't do 11. Should I make you do 10 pull-ups on our workout? No. I'm going to make you do 5. Why? Because I'm setting you up to work the next day. The next day we're going to do 5. And the next day we're going to do another 5. And then we're going to do 6. When 6 is really easy, we're going to do 7. Why? If you count, if you did 10 pull-ups on Monday, you're going to be sore till Thursday. Let's say it's really your max. So Thursday, you've only done 10 pull-ups from Monday.
I think my only issue so far is he hasn't mentioned sets at all. So, to me, it's like, well, what if we did, 10 sets of 3? Or what if we did 10 sets of 3, and then we did a drop set to failure? I don't know. I would venture to say you might be sore for a day, but you're going to have some serious adaptation.
Monday to Thursday, you've only done 10 pull-ups. Me, I've been doing 5 pull-ups every day. So I'm at 20 pull-ups already, 25 pull-ups. I have more volume than you. Now, if you add up at the end of the year, who trained more? I've trained way more than you. So
But what does that have to do with soreness? Hang on. So you're saying that you're guaranteeing that if someone's sore, they're still not going to be capable of doing that. So let's just say that that's not exactly accurate.
Jiu-jitsu every single day, 3 rounds, 5 days a week. That's 15 rounds. You go in twice a week, but you kill yourself. You do 5 rounds each day. You push yourself those last 2 rounds, and you burn yourself out. I still did 15. You're at 10. At the end of the year, I've done countless rounds more. I've had so much more training than you. So how much training can we pack in the week? That's the real question. How much volume can you expose your athlete to? So I
do like that. I actually even think that this is a good way to package even caloric consumption, in my mind, it should come back to how many calories are you eating in a week. There's certain things that Zahabi's saying that I'm like, dude, you're like really simplifying this. I could talk to weightlifters and they can be sore back to back to back days, but they're still training back to back to back days. So just because you're sore doesn't mean you can't train that next day. And just because you're sore doesn't necessarily mean the quality of the next day's training is going to be poor either. Like, there's still a balance to all this.
I always tell people, look, exercise can produce energy. So let's say I'm feeling like a 7 out of 10. 10 being I'm really like energized. 1, I was like really lethargic, feeling like I need to lay down. And 7, I'm feeling good. Okay? If I get up and I do a right amount of exercise, the right amount, I can feel like an 8.5. Exercise can give me a tonic effect, like drinking this coffee. So let's say I just do some jumping jacks, I hit the back for a couple of rounds, I'm feeling good. Once you get that high, shut it down. Don't go into the phase where your body's beat up, tight, broken up. Don't redline the body. That's only for training camps, for a small period of time. Why? Because you get a little bit more from the system. But in the long run, you get less. In the long run, you've taxed the system. So if you do that regularly.
Okay, so he's essentially saying, like, look, we don't want to put ourselves in this situation where we're going to broke every single day. For general population, I would agree for the most part. I still think once a week, an older person should be going full throttle. Like, dude.
So let's say as simple as playing like Tetris. If I put you on a level that's too high, you're gonna play for 5 minutes. You're gonna be like, I'm done. If I put you on a level too easy, you're gonna be like, this is boring. If I put you at the right amount of level, you see that's the flow channel. So if the challenge is too high, you'll meet anxiety. If it's too low, you're boredom. When I go in the practice room, I'm trying to create flow. I'm having fun. Training should be addictive. Imagine training was addictive. Everybody would train, everybody would be fit.
Now, the interesting part here is some aspects of challenging things, like actually the Soviet system discussed this, where a lot of individuals and a lot of athletes, when they're given challenging tasks, like, and this is where learning like a snatch, learning a clean, younger kids, because they're so pliable, it might take them, and they have the patience, a younger kid will have the patience to learn a clean over 6 to 12 months, whereas an adult won't have that patience, and they'll quit after a very short time horizon. And like, that's where it's like, yeah, that chart doesn't really explain that much.
But people always go into anxiety. They go and they slam their body. Then I have to convince you to do it again 3 days later, 2 days later. And you're like, dude, the mental energy is going to take me to get there. Like, it shouldn't be. Training should be a pulling force. It should be pulling you. You want to go training. If you don't want to go training, it's not fun. If it's not fun, you're not going to do a lot of it. And if you're not going to do a lot of it, you're never going to reach mastery. So how do I make it pleasurable? How to make it fun? I have to be in a flow state. And you can get into a flow state in almost anything. But when you're out of that flow state, cut it.
Who was it? Wasn't the dude, I think it was Eckhart Tolle. This is where, like, when I hear stuff like this, I'm like, come on, dog. We were reading about Eckhart Tolle like in 2004. And that's like, he was talking about, oh, we have to enter the flow state. Cool. Get into the flow state. Guess how else you can get into the flow state? Put 200 kilos on your back and make yourself back squat for 3. For those 3 reps, you're going to be in the flow state. You're going to be in you're going to be in the heavens. You're going to be sitting there, you'll 100% be in the flow state. So that's the other thing, is like, high intensity work can really lead to the flow state too. That's just like the challenging aspect here. For what he's saying, for the most part, I don't disagree with. I want to see what Joe has to say here, though.
Some guys have made great strides with just mental fortitude and mental strength overtraining the shit out of themselves.
Okay, but can I ask you this?
Yes.
They were successful, yeah?
Yeah,
okay.
But their bodies break down.
Right. But could they have been better if they used flow? Exactly.
Right.
As good as they were.
Like Dan Gable, for example. Like what Dan Gable essentially was done in his 20s, right? In terms of like his body's broken down.
Exactly.
He also wasn't making money at the time, though. Keep in mind, wrestling in the 70s, there wasn't a lot of money.
Every time an American wrestler wins, he's like some prodigy. He's rare. It's rare. It does happen, but it's rarely he's a technical master.
Right.
However, you have these Russian guys that win gold medals. You've never heard of them, and they're like Michael Jordans of the sport.
Yeah.
There's just so many of them. They train long, consistent practices. Whereas in America, we do Monday, Wednesday, Friday hard. We kill it. And then you rest Tuesday, Thursday. The Eastern Bloc had a totally different understanding. They're like, it's volume, volume, volume. Near the fight, short and intense.
I would say so. Like when I trained with Dr. B, we would go through and we would do training literally 2 sessions a day, every single day. There is still, it's not as clear as what he's saying. So training in the Soviet system, we would train twice a day, 6 days a week. The intensity was lower. There was still 1 or 2 days that we would be able to go in and go as hard as possible in the circle. And in this case, for a fight setup, I would say, and I've watched a lot of stuff around training in Dagestan. Thomas Gilman actually went over and spent some time there and actually documented, talking through like, this is how they do their sparring and stuff like that in practice. And sparring would be like flow wrestling. So South Dakota State, we actually planned that into their endurance practice. They have periods of flow wrestling. Now, he's saying some of this stuff around the Russian wrestlers, and it's like, this was 6 years ago. Even 6 years ago, the U.S. was already starting to push the Russian wrestlers, and on top of that, there's some other factors that go into play. But with Russian wrestlers, I'm even just thinking about like Jordan Burroughs versus Dennis Targush. Burroughs, when he beat Targush in the Olympic semis, like, you're looking at Targush, who was just wrestling all the time. Burroughs was in college. Burroughs was wrestling another style, and Burroughs came through in the American system and beat him, and then won the Olympics in 12. And so it's like, and multiple world titles on that system. And we've seen that with Dake and with David Taylor with success, and Kyle Snyder, and the list can go on and on and on. So I will say this though. I do think Cael Sanderson has taken some of those, some of the flow concepts, along with the competitive nature, along with the fun aspect of training, and has applied it. I don't think it's as easy though as like there's really hard training and then there's flow training. I think there's like a very fine balance that you can play in the middle ground. So I think that needs to be brought up. Some of the questions could be a little bit.
The maximum amount of volume you can. Imagine me and you we're two athletes, A and B. You're A and B. You're training jiu-jitsu 3 times a week really, really hard. You're going all out. I'm training jiu-jitsu every single day. My average practice is 2 hours. Your average practice is 2 hours. But when you go in, you kill it. Like you go with all the black belts and you kill it. At the end of the year, I'm averaging 2 practices more than you. So I've had 100 practices more than you by the end of the year. 104 practices. Let's give 2 weeks for vacation. 100 practices more than you. 200 hours more than you have been training. When we roll, your intensity that you put on the mat is going to be irrelevant. Why? Because I've also tasted that intensity periodically. It's not that much of a factor now. When you go super aggressive on me, when you attack me aggressively, I have felt that. I know how to deal with it. Plus, I have an extra 100 hours on you. 200 hours. So I'm going to mangle you. You know what I'm saying? The volume is far more important than the intensity.
So as much as I want to disagree with him, one thing I do want to bring up is, even in the realm of power sports and strength sports, I want to relate this back to a conversation I watched Barry Sanders have, and even Tony Gwynn was talking about this, where batting practice becomes in a sport like baseball, batting practice is very much like a flow style of training. Now, they don't call it that. They just call it batting practice. But then when you're in batting practice, the point is to like really get into a dialed in state where you're just working on your technical mechanics. And one thing that I do think in a sport, even like powerlifting, you can have a flow style at a higher intensity where you might do like 10 doubles or 10 singles and you have a minute or a minute and a half rest, and it might be at 85%. And based off of that, of what he's saying, like, would that be in the flow state or would that be in the too high intensity? And we're going to achieve anxiety. Like in the world of throwing, we can have range days, which help you get into that flow feeling. But then you still have sessions where once a week you try to slam a throw. So like, there's still a lot of gray area here. Now, I do think the theme behind it isn't exactly wrong. I do agree with that.
Sparring. There's no headgear. There's no mat on the floor. They're literally sparring on concrete. You think they're really trying to drop each other? They're on concrete. I mean, burners, people line up to want to spar with them. It's a joy to spar with them.
Yeah, I love this idea and I love this approach. I think that we have this attitude that you have to be tough. We have this attitude that you have to work hard. And I mean, I've fallen prey to that many, many times in my life, where you just got to be tougher. You got to work out harder. You got to push harder. But when I read Pavel's stuff, one of the first things that struck me is like, well, yeah, of course, if you just do 5 reps every day and then you won't be sore, you could do it more often. And then your body, like, you get farmer strength. Like,
Exactly.
Where's farmer strength come from? Farmers aren't, they're not going to exhaustion.
No.
You know, they're not like throwing hay bales to the point where, you know.
Okay, so there's a very, like, it's not this simple. What he's talking about is what we did with Dr. B in the Soviet system. But one of the downfalls of being in that system is after 4 or 5 weeks, you start to be like, it's mundane. It's boring as hell. It's not as glamorous as we're like hearing this described. I was in the Soviet system. I trained with Anatoly Bondarchuk, who was the godfather of the throwing system from the Soviet system, from the Soviet Union. And dude, you go 3 months, you go 5 months, you go 6 months. There's times that you're just like, this is absolute hell, because you're doing the same repetitive things over and over and over again. The balance comes down to, can we have like 1 hard day a week or 2 hard days a week and then 2 to 3 flow days? And you absolutely can. That's one thing that we do inside of our strength training app, Peak Strength. Inside of Peak Strength, we're setting up days so that the beginning of the week, the first day of the week, we might go really hard. And then you might have 2 to 3 days that are going to be a little bit easier with specific exercises that are going to help you with your specific sport. We want to make sure that the training inside of the gym is a supplement to help you get better inside of your specific sport or for your specific goals. So head over to peakstrength.app, the Google Play Store or the Apple iOS Store, and you can get Peak Strength, where you're going to be inside of a system that balances these things as finely as possible. Now, going back to this discussion, just saying like, oh, well, Pavel says this, blah, blah, blah. Like, yeah, to a point. But still, if you're looking at a strength sport like weightlifting, there's a high volume system from the Soviet system, but there's still days that you're seeing like, okay, 20% of their reps were still singles, which is a high intensity rep. Okay. It was like 20 to 25% of their reps were still doubles, which is still very high intensity. Okay. So there's still, it's not as, it's like this abstract discussion without any precision around planning. It's just like, well, this is what this book says, and this is what I see.
You should never be sore. If you're sore, you overdid it.
Whoa.
Because I can't train the next day if I'm sore.
I
open the wound.
Who can't train the next day if they're sore? Like, genuinely. Who can't train when they're sore? Like, I don't, like, there's severity of soreness. Like, yeah, if you go and obliterate yourself, of course you're not, but like, there's days, let's look at distance running, 5K guy. They're really running like 6 mile repeats. Okay, really, really hard freaking workout. Guess what they do the next day? They go out and they run, and they're still sore. They're running mile repeats, and they're sore the next day. They're going to be banged up a little bit, but they're going out and they're doing an hour and a half, 2 hour run. They're doing slow distance work because they're sore. It's not this thing of like, you can't train if you're sore. It's this aspect of, what do you do when you are sore? That's the balance here. It's not as simple as like, oh, if you're sore, you can't go into the gym. Like, what is that thought process?
Out then.
What's that?
I said I've overdone it every time I worked out.
You may have.
I mean, that's the funny thing. I've overdone this every time I've worked out. Yep, every time. Yeah.
You may have. You gotta.
There's a lot of people listening to this right now going, wait a minute. What? How the
Wait a minute. This dude's a...
I need to work my stabilizers. I need to swing the kettlebell. I need to squat. I need to do certain exercises.
Like, what are the standard cores? Kettlebells, is that like
triple
your main...
extension is number one. So any type of squatting maneuver. I don't particularly use the squat. I like to use
triple extension.
Triple extension. So your knee, hip, and ankle are bending. Okay. So like a squat. Your knee, hip, and ankle are bending.
That would be flexion.
to throw the med ball a lot against the wall. I like to do hurdles. I like to do box jumps. I like to very low impact plyometrics. I like sprinting. Sprinting is huge. You ever do the beep test?
What's that?
Oh,
Hold on a second. He just said very low plyometrics, and then he said hurdles and sprinting, but low intensity plyometrics. But we're gonna do hurdles and sprinting.
you got the space for the beep test here. You got to implement beep
What is
test.
it?
It's the best way to do cardio.
Yeah, beep test is sick.
Players use it a lot. It's a beep, right? You run, you beep, and then it beeps back. And the faster the beeps go, the faster you have to run. That's really amazing. Because what I do is I set a timer for 5 minutes. I put it on a high pace. Like I'll put it at 10 or 11. And I'll just and it's very, it translates very well to sports.
Do you do Tabatas? Do you ever do Tabata
Tabatas are
intervals?
good, yeah. I think Tabatas are good. If they're done well, they're good. But again, you have to do it in a way that doesn't create soreness. Because Tabata can create soreness. You have to be very. Like I wouldn't do Tabata kettlebell swing. That'll cook my hamstrings. I'll probably do like hurdle jump. Like you take a small hurdle and you just hurdle over it for 20 seconds.
Now, what you're saying, though,
20 seconds of hops.
the people out there right now that are screaming into their phones.
They're wrong. All due respect. They're wrong.
I like how you say all
They're
due
wrong.
respect.
With all due respect, they're wrong. Let me tell you why.
Okay.
And look, if you like CrossFit, do it. Whatever motivates you, do it.
Okay.
CrossFit's problem is it's fatigue seeking.
Yes.
It says, look, go out there and burn yourself out.
Yeah.
That's totally wrong. They're not building any skill. Show me a guy who's a champion in CrossFit, champion in Jiu-Jitsu. That guy would need 2 life.
Yeah, okay. CrossFitters are, yes, fatigue seeking for sure. They don't build any skill. These dudes are snatching, like, in the peak of CrossFit, in the heyday of CrossFit, like 300-pound snatches, 400-pound cleans. Those are skill-based movements. They build skill. Sorry, they did. You're not wrong with the fatigue building. Okay, so let's go to this next video because I want to actually go a little bit more into what Joe has to say, because I think my takeaway from that first video there is that really what it comes down to is it's balancing this discussion of where is too sore, where is not enough stimulation. You know, you could use the theory, and I think part of what he was getting at there was, you know, you look at someone like Chris Beardsley who's had, you know, in functional hypertrophy, he's looking at, okay, if we can get to the 5 RIR point where we have 5 reps in reserve, we are going to get enough mechanical tension to lead to muscular growth, and we won't get as sore as possible. I think it's okay to get sore. I just think it's important to have plans based off of your soreness levels that the following day you might not be able to put out as much as you did the previous day because the previous day was such a high intensity. So then you might use the days after the soreness, you're using flow work. I think that's my issue here, is that I wanted Joe to be like, yo, dude, but why not do like a really high intensity day and then come back and do 2 to 3 days of flow work and then do another really high intense day and then a day of flow work. Like that's how we can set up a week of training using both aspects. And
I wanted that question to get thrown in there.
but it wasn't put in there, lacking in that point. Okay, so now we got Action Bronson
All about the path. All right, set 2.
and Joe are training here. It's all about the path right here. Okay, this is a good one because I want to talk about this is a simple concept where somebody who's doing like a bench press, okay, it's very easy to feel the bench press, to miss a bench press because it gets out of the groove. I do think even with kettlebells, it can be all about the path.
On the path, staying on the path. It's just hard for people to get on the path. The first step,
Ooh, there we go.
just getting out the door, tying on your shoes. You got it right there. Key is get them on. Get them on and you get going. You ever do these?
Sissy squat type of thing?
No, Nordic curls. Regardless of how much you procrastinate, as long as you take the steps, as long as you're on the path.
You came in cold and did fucking.
Came in cold and did Nordics, so that's pretty cool. I give it to you there, Joe. That's pretty legit, hitting that. Those Nordics are tough, and I do think it's like going back to the first video, dude, you do Nordics, you're gonna be sore. So are we looking at that like, wow, you probably shouldn't do Nordics because you're gonna be sore from them?
It's tough.
Once you're on the path, then you feel the momentum. Like, I got 3 good workouts this week. I'm good to go. You wake up on the 4th day, you feel good, you get excited.
It's like I was never fat.
Once you start something, you get a habit, and then next thing you know, 6 months later, you're looking at yourself in the mirror, you're like, God damn, I look good. I feel better. It's all just about momentum and staying on the path and trusting this process. and then giving your body the right fuel. That's what it's all about.
You're right. You're all right.
Okay, third set.
That was pretty good. All right, let's get into this part 1 of the workout.
Do I look like shit though?
No.
I look all right?
Oh, you look a lot better than you used to look.
Yeah, you're right.
This is just a series that I always do. I always do at least one day of this every week, of this particular series. The specific movements are body weight, squats, push-ups. And then 3 sets of swings, 10 each arm. 3 sets of clean press, 10 each arm. 3 sets of windmill, 10 each arm. And 3 sets of renegade rows.
So that's pretty good. I mean, dude, that's a challenge right there. That's a great starting point. A lot of people will say, like, where should we be working out? He's going through swings, clean and press, windmill, renegade rows. That's a workout right there. If you're somebody who's just trying to start with the training, just get in, get a dumbbell, get a kettlebell, get a band, get body weight. Body weight, you could just go through the motions of squat, swing, squat, swing. You go through the motions of clean, press, and you're going to get a pretty good freaking workout.
Full body. I like to do things that when I do jujitsu
It all
or
works.
kickboxing, it translates directly to that.
For sure.
Because the whole
Okay, the only thing I want to bring up here is that just doing full body, okay? Because you're doing full body when you're doing a specific sport, just throwing this out here, it doesn't mean that if you're doing, let's say, upper body or legs or even isolation movement, if you're just doing biceps, it doesn't mean that when you go practice that sport that that's not going to transfer. Just putting that out there.
body is used to moving as a unit. Nothing's isolated. Nothing's.
Yeah, no, I know.
Everything is
Yeah,
the
yeah.
whole body.
It's not like when you are constantly practicing a sport, okay? If you train with some points of isolation and you're still practicing that sport regularly on a frequent, consistent basis, the isolation movement is not going to hinder that performance.
All right, so this is what I do. I start out. I don't know if you can do the slant board, but
Might be able to.
we do sets of 20, so deep squats. So I'm going down into it like this. I don't know if you could do this.
Yeah.
And we're just gonna do sets of 22. So we'll do them together like this.
Yeah.
And then just go all the way down to deep. I like to put my hands behind and then I lift up like this.
So it's almost like a Hindu squat. This is great. This is how you get a great pump. So this is Joe's warm-up. Pretty good. 20 push-ups.
Again,
You go this fast on your warm-ups?
yeah,
I like it.
it just gets you sweaty,
Yeah, I like it.
gets you loose. And usually I'm coming straight from the cold plunge.
Did you do it today?
No, I just got
No,
it.
I've never done it.
You never done the cold plunge? We have one.
I've never
You
done
wanna
it.
do it?
Whew, rocking and rolling. I can't keep my weight down. Just can't do it. Garbage.
Yeah.
Not terrible. It's not great.
You got low at one point, right?
240, 275 right now.
It's probably pasta. Pasta and bread, pizza. All right, last push-up, and then we're good. We're gonna do swings, one-arm swings. We'll do 10 each arm. Do you do kettlebell swings?
Oh, yeah.
All right, we'll do 10 each arm. Engage those hamstrings. Get that lower back.
Hinge work is my favorite.
They're the greatest.
Woo! I started off with the chimpanzees, worked my way up. How long have you been working out? Since a fucking kid?
Yeah,
Yeah?
since I
I
was a
walked
kid.
in the gym when I was 13. Hey, listen, trust me, I know, but 13 years old, I was seeing juice heads, all kinds of shit. That's what inspired me. I was in there working, 13 years old. Guy took me to the Lost Battalion, to try and do Olympic lifting. Never worked out. But I've been around the gym for a long time. This is a lifelong journey.
Dude, it's all about food.
It is.
It's if
Yeah, I mean, that's 100%. I think the big aspect here is recognizing that that's a cool story. He's been training that long. I think the big thing is it is all about food. Once it comes down to health and actual weight loss, it's got to be something that you prioritize as far as like being in a caloric deficit, making sure that you're getting through, what are you eating at each point of the day, and that you're not overeating. That's going to be a big key
Eat
factor.
in Italy,
Totally,
the same stuff, and you don't get fat because we're spraying.
That's not. I'll say I was in Rome last year and I did get fat. I was there for a week and I ate way too much pizza, and I don't necessarily agree with that statement.
Genetically modified wheat. It's all like.
Isn't that the shit that they need when they're pregnant? They fucking give you folic acid?
Yeah, I don't know what they give you when you're pregnant, but folate is what your body
Foliage.
naturally processes. Folic acid is the shit they spray on wheat. When you get like enriched flour, that's what that is. Your body doesn't know what to do with that. Your body's like, what the fuck is this?
I
Yeah,
don't
but
know
when you
if
make
this is
cookies with the
accurate,
other
but I'm
shit,
not
don't taste
gonna-
the same.
It doesn't?
It doesn't taste the same.
Really?
It gotta be garbage.
Really?
In America, it has to be like Hector's flour, Pillsbury. When it's made with like fine Italian flour, that doesn't hit the same.
Really?
It becomes some Italian shit.
Yeah, I like it.
I mean, I like it too, but
That's so funny. It becomes some bull. That's like one of those things where you have like a cheesesteak with you're like, I just want that fake processed cheese.
I do benching.
no, right?
And I can bench. I don't do squats. I can squat. Everything I do is this stuff. Do you know what Pavel Tsatsouline is?
Yeah, of course.
I follow his principles. And Pavel's principles are, like, if you can do 20 reps of something to failure, don't do 20. Do 10. Do 10, wait a long time, like 5 minutes, and then do another 10.
Okay.
The idea is you want to be completely recovered before you do your second set. That way you're doing the same amount of reps as if you were going to failure. You're doing it over.
Okay, so I would agree with that for the most part. It's like one of those things is in a squat set, right? If I would do my first set of squats to failure and I want to try and increase strength, if I'm going to failure, I'm going to get a lot less reps in the entire workout than if I wait and let's say I do 5 sets of 4 instead of doing 1 set to failure and then 5 sets of 1. Let's just say that if I do 5 sets of 4 and then the drop set, I do a little bit harder set. If I'm staying a little bit further away from failure, I will get more volume. If I get more volume, I get more mechanical tension. That's going to lead to greater strength gains.
But he
And
feels
full
like
energy.
Yes, full energy, full strength. He feels like strength is a skill, and you shouldn't do skills when you're tired. You shouldn't be like,
feel
you shouldn't be like that. You should just do the same.
I think there's like a gray area there. I think it's good to do skills when you're tired if you're in a sport that you have to execute skills when you're tired. I'm not saying that should be what you do all the time, but you should be doing that at times.
Just space it out over time, and you'll get stronger, and you'll minimize your risk of injury. Your body will adapt to it better.
I work out with dudes in LA, and it's like no matter what, 20. No matter what, 20 reps, big weight, small weight, no matter what. Shit fucking taxes you.
Yeah.
You can't even walk the next day.
Yeah, that's not the smartest way to do it.
I want to grapple somebody.
Yeah?
I don't know why. Shall we?
Yes, sir. The whole idea with windmills is we're working on range of motion. I'm going down like this, looking at the kettlebell, and then I'm going up.
So you're hinging like this, ass out like that.
So point your toe.
Point, yep.
Point, because we're gonna go
Yep.
down with the left, so point this side.
Yep.
And you're gonna clean, you're gonna press, and then once you have it pressed, you're gonna do this for 10. See, my arm slides down, and my
I will say I do love windmills, especially for a warm up, dude. If I'm like sitting too long for a day and I go down and grab like 25s, I'll actually get spasms in my back from doing it. So fair.
I drop down to 50 pounds. I like a little bit lighter with windmills.
You gotta show me windmills, bro. I can't get in that position.
Yeah.
It's so tough.
Just slowly work yourself into that position. So like,
But not for reps, just like hold it.
well, we're gonna do the other side now.
Let me just try
point.
here.
Okay.
I'm pointing.
So clean, press, and then just slowly work your way down as low as you can. As low as you can. Hold it.
I think he could bend his right knee a little.
Straight up. But keep the arm up in the air.
That's the problem here.
You don't even need to do weights, honestly.
That was something I mentioned in the beginning there. It's like, it's cool seeing him here. You don't need to do weights all the time. Somebody who's stiff, I think he could bend his right knee a little bit more. But just doing like what Joe was talking about with the swings, the clean and press and stuff like that. This is what I meant too, is like, look, this dude's got, look at that, that's his home gym. If we're able to just go through and just hit work and just move, it doesn't matter if there's load or not. It's going to be good.
You're doing a lot of this. You got to do stuff where you're extended.
You're making me feel like I'm an asshole.
No, you look, fuck, you're a house. Fuck, dude. It's all the stuff you're doing. You know, you're doing a lot of this.
Yeah.
And all that. It's just, that's a lot of shoulder.
A lot of inside
mass.
tucking in.
Yeah. And that's what gives you all that bulk, but you want motion. You want mobility.
I feel like I could teach classes on maces and shit like that.
Yeah.
Now. I really do.
No, I see you doing it all the time. You know what you're doing. I can tell you do a lot of them. Right. Yeah, that's a great shoulder mobility exercise.
And the full whole side of your body.
Uh-huh.
Once you keep your legs straight.
Yeah, I do them.
Clubs also.
They're really good for archery. So I hold them like this, straight out like this.
That's just no joke. I actually came up with an archery move. I came up with this weird little move for archery and for shooting a gun. It's ridiculous, but
Not bad.
try and keep that up there.
Anytime you're swinging things up, you're engaging your whole body. So how are you doing it?
Put it forward.
So my question there is, like, if we're engaging the whole body, if that's the whole focus, I would challenge people to hit some cleans or snatches, like just a barbell. Just learn how to clean with a bar, or learn how to snatch with a bar, and making contact and hitting those different positions just with a barbell, because now you're engaging the whole body, as we talked about, but you're also getting more mobile in certain positions, and that can also improve that windmill position.
And up. And into the rifle position. And then spin, like turn, like you're looking around, surveying the area. And then back to the position. Or hold it here.
Yeah, that's good. Okay.
Getting inventive.
Okay. So have you done these?
Yep.
Renegade rows? All right.
You going single arm
'em
only, or you go switch?
Single arm only. I switch. One at a time.
All right, let's see how Joe does these here.
Down like this.
Slight turn from the hip.
Push up. Hold. And then I do this. Up.
Great finisher.
Yep.
One.
Okay, 1-1.
Really works your core. Because when you're in that position
Of holding
and you're pulling up, where it's done, you do the sauna. You're doing the work. You're strong as shit. You just have to get your diet right. Have you ever tried like a carnivore diet?
No. Atkins.
Yeah.
Back in the day when I was a kid, but I shit all over the place. It was
Beginning is extraordinary.
Yeah, it's extraordinary.
Yeah, look.
It's extraordinary. All right, that's a good way to finish this, because I think it goes back into what Joe was talking about. Just, simplifying your workouts, and then also just eating well, eating good quality food, whole foods as much as possible, and making sure that I would also recommend trying to make sure that you're eating some type of caloric deficit, at least probably 5 to 6 days out of the week. I like this workout. I think it's pretty simple. I think it's something that you guys can do too. When you're just doing squats, you're just doing some type of body weight push-ups, body weight swings even, and you just practice even with the body weight windmills, and then you can build into some kettlebell work, and then build into some barbell work with a clean, with a snatch, with a close grip snatch, anything along those lines. If you guys need help with your training, head over to peakstrength.app, the Google Play Store or the Apple iOS Store. If you want another video like this, click on this link right here, because remember, freaks, if you want to become a champion, you've always got to cultivate your power. Peace.